the nice summer weather continues today. Not as much people around, I guess, the trails today for some reason. And what did I read today? How about this one? It was kind of interesting. A lot of people nowadays, they use drones just to film, for example, what's going on around the area, especially during protests. How about this one though, where apparently there were talks about using them to identify people in order to, I guess, let's just say charge them afterwards, which is generating a lot of controversy. This one says, just fly a drone over. Suggestion on the encampment response at UT council meeting sparks privacy concerns for protesters' advocates. As you know, there have been a lot of protests around universities with encampments and all that. Even the one here, I actually filmed it with my drone too. This one says, a suggestion by University of Toronto governing council member to deploy drones and facial recognition on encampment participants and seek financial reparations from bad actors within the movement has sparked concern among protesters and privacy advocates. The meeting held on June 27th allowed council members to discuss the administration's response to the action as it awaited a decision from the courts and the injunction that eventually brought an end to the encampment. In the days leading up to the forum, protest organizers had called on council members to urge the university to publicly disclose and divest from any investment with ties to the Israeli military. And according to some of these quotes, they were trying to figure out ways to, I guess, identify people. And it says, I understand that it's difficult and challenging to identify those in the encampment. Madden continued, but I will say I find it implausible that with the technology we have at hand today, facial recognition, artificial intelligence, machine learning, that we wouldn't really just fly a drone over there and in some fashion identify those who are in and out, at least some of them. Not all 300 of them are bad actors, but if we don't hold to account the ones who are, then by implication all of them will be thought to be so. When reached for comment, Madden did not respond to acknowledge requests for further comment. So what would you think about that? That was actually the concern for a lot of people with authority figures like police officers using drones, where they'll just fly the drone around and basically try to identify people with facial recognition, as they say, and who knows what they could do with them afterwards. Give them fines, put them on some kind of permanent record, or can you imagine if it's a protest where people are doing nothing wrong, but whoever's in charge just doesn't like it, so they'll be able to use it against people. I know the argument for stuff like this is we're not there yet in terms of the technology, but you can see if it was there, people would probably be using it in those ways, huh? With that said, would you consider this as just like any other camera per se? Because it says, we've already seen Toronto police deploy these kinds of technologies, and now what we're seeing is the governing council calling for those same surveillance technologies to be expanded onto university campuses. Now there is the argument too, as you know, where when you're out in the public, there is no expectation of privacy. And it says, we have the right in Canada to go out and about in anonymity without fear of mass surveillance by the state. Brisway McNichol told CTV News Toronto in an interview, the minute we accept the proposition that the state or other actors can survey who is attending what legal activity, I think we're giving up a very important fundamental right, privacy rights. The use of facial recognition technology also runs the risk of misidentification, she added. When you're thinking about the use of FRT in the context of law enforcement, you're thinking about the risk of wrongfully charging innocent people for a crime they have not committed, which to us is extremely profoundly problematic. And with that thought of officials using drones, that news about someone trying to assassinate Donald Trump in the US is still going around, where people are trying to figure out what the heck happened. And in this case, they're wondering again, why didn't you use drones? This one says, Secret Service not using drones to monitor Trump rally under scrutiny. Questions have been raised about why drones were not deployed on the day a gunman shot at former President Donald Trump. On July 13th, a gunman identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire from a rooftop near where Trump was speaking at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican, said Cheeto, who I guess is in charge of the Secret Service, was asked in a law enforcement briefing with senators on Wednesday why drones were not deployed to detect potential threats from elevated positions during Saturday's rally. Saying, quote, you had one senator who asked, were there drones, yes or no? Cruz said on Verdict, his podcast, and the answer from the head of Secret Service was, quote, we determined that the risk from the rooftop was mitigated by counter snipers. So it's one of those things where we got everything covered anyways, I guess we don't need it. Cruz criticized Cheeto for not acknowledging during the call that drones should have been in use. He also questioned how an advanced Secret Service team that scoped out the scene ahead of the event to identify potential areas of concern did not realize the rooftop where the gunman opened fire from was sloped. That's one of the crazy things about this story as I read into it. Apparently, the roof that the sniper was on, their excuse at first on why there was no one, I guess, on the roof themselves, like actual snipers as part of the team, is because they said the slope of it was, I guess, too much, so it's dangerous, which doesn't make any sense at all, especially when you see, I guess, the other rooftop that the other snipers were in comparison. And it goes on to say the Federal Aviation Administration has confirmed that the Secret Service did not request special government interest waivers to fly drones over the event, saying, quote, the FAA did not issue any event SGI waivers prior to last Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. So it was clearly not in their mind, I guess, to use the drone in general.
Once for the money, twice for the show, and 3 times. Here we go! Wow! Bow for the audience! Bow! Yes! And wait, folks!
All right, see you guys later.